Okay, we're going, buddy. That's we're started here. So, how you
Well,
doing,
nice to
Paul?
see you, Tony.
How you doing,
Thanks
man?
for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, we've chatted back and forth over the years, but this is the first time we're seeing each other face to face.
Yeah, we've emailed. I bought stuff from you. We've communicated, but no, this is new technology. Zoom. This is
Oh
the
my
new
God,
way.
forgot. I mean, I forgot that I used to sell wrestling cards back in the day. Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. Vela cards at AOL.
God, it shows you how old. And
Yeah.
AOL,
Well, we're
I still
probably
have,
around the
by the
same
way.
age, so First, let me say congratulations, by the way, on these videos. You're doing a fantastic job with them, and I think it's great, especially the two with you and David. It was nice after sort of things being quiet for so long that all of a sudden wrestling trading cards as a hobby gets ignited. I've kept my site going since you guys haven't been updated, just so you can go to one place to sort of catch all the recent sets. But this is great. Now we can get into talking about historical sets, what I do, what you guys are doing, what guys like Chuck or David Peck, what they brought to the hobby. I think that this is going to be great.
Why do you think that's such a huge push right now for wrestling cards? All of a sudden, it seems to be very popular now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like last year in 2019, I didn't get off of them, but Topps released so many different sets, and they have been since you guys stopped. Like you guys, even if you would have kept going, you'd be up to your eyeballs editing data because Topps put out so many sets. Then they got Topps Now, then you got the Leaf stuff, and there's just been so much. I think last year I had 20 updates on the Price Guide site, and the problem is, Tony, is that you can only have so many of autograph cards of one performer, and I just thought that they were sort of flooding the market with product. And for a guy like me that's been collecting all my life, and specifically wrestling cards, it was like, well, wait a minute here. It doesn't do anything to the value of my older Fleer sets from the 2000s if there's 9 different sets and there's a Chrome and a Heritage of this and that. So, that happened, and then COVID happened this year, and the complete opposite. Now all of a sudden, after the Road to WrestleMania set came out, nothing. I guess Top shut down just because of the pandemic. So now it's maybe going to get to a little more evenness where we have the right number of cards coming in. And I think because of that, because there's not a lot of new sets, to your question, roundabout way of getting there, is that's why it's popular. But you know what, man? It goes in waves. I've seen times like in around 2010, 2012, when autograph cards were getting a ton of cash. Then it goes down a little bit like wrestling itself. Wrestling has highs where they have guys like Cena and guys like Hogan on top, and then there's other times where it's a bit of a rebuilding period. That's what I think is going on in the hobby. But, just based for my collection, I want to see the cards keep their value and go as high as they can.
Well, you see a guy like David Peck out there who's got such an impressive collection, especially with those 82, 83 pro wrestling, the All-Star sets. And you get guys like Gary Vee, who I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and I follow him. And he's always talking about the hobbies as far as trading cards, sports cards. And he's featured some stuff on wrestling.
You and I have never actually talked about my collection.
Yeah.
And that's what we started in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear that story, I'll go back to how I got into wrestling cards and tell you what I got. First of all, I have pretty much every base set that's ever been released. I have pretty much every chase set, insert set that's ever been released. 99% of that universe. I have a relic card and an autograph card, at least one from every set that's ever been released. I just took some notes before we started. Right now, I have about 46,000 individual cards. I've never sold a card. I have about 1,150 memorabilia cards and about 1,350 autograph cards. Now, I'll tell you, there's a lot more Christopher Daniels than there are Hulk Hogan's, but quite a few. So for the longest time, I was a completist, a guy that wanted to get his hands on as much stuff as he could. But when Topps took over from Fleer, whenever that was,
2005, 2006, 2005.
Yeah, they just started cranking out so many sets that it was impossible. Then here comes parallel cards, and then every kind of chase card imaginable. So, it's gone from something that was manageable, Tony, to now there being so many cards. Like even when I update the price guide, if I leave it for a few months and I get back to it, it's like, oh, shit, there's a ton of stuff that's come out in the last little bit,
Yeah.
So I don't envy you. You guys get back to work on getting.
I was the same way as you. It's kind of why I kind of stopped collecting myself personally, because it just became I was a completist as well. So it was already difficult enough to complete the Fleer products because there was a lot of cool stuff to get.
Right.
And so, but I got it. And then when Topps took over, it was like, I can't keep up with this stuff. It's just not even possible. I've kind of lost the love of collecting.
I had my spreadsheets, which ultimately became the price guide. And I would list everything, the entire set. And I would read out everything that I didn't have. And there was a time where in the entire wrestling universe, I might have been within several hundred cards of having it all. And then it changed. Now all of a sudden you've got these mega releases, many of them a year, and it just wasn't possible anymore. I'll tell you quickly what got me into wrestling cards. Up here in Toronto, we have 3 national sports: hockey, and hockey.
Yeah,
Although I guess
and I'm a hockey fan.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that though, because our basketball team actually did pretty good last year.
Yeah, you guys did pretty well. I wouldn't complain about your basketball team.
No, I think we're going to do it again, even without Kawhi. But anyways, we're a hockey town, Toronto. The Maple Leafs haven't won us anything since '67, and we're already out of the playoffs, and people are still thinking about next season. But like most kids do, my dad, when he used to come home when I was a kid, would come home with packs of hockey cards, and that's where it started for me. I remember when I was in grade 8, that was '79, Gretzky's rookie year, and I must have had 5 or 6 of his rookie cards that we were flinging off walls. So fast forward to when I was in my early 20s and I started my first business. I decided to sell my hockey card collection just to get some seed money, some cash to get started. I was in the music business and I need some money to get going. And this guy raped me. He must have taken like 7 or 8 Gretzky rookies and he was giving me $100 a pop. They're worth $1,000 today or whatever. And the one thing I remember was I kept some wrestling cards, only because I've always been a wrestling fan. I was a kid that went to see the original Sheik back in Toronto in the '70s. One of my earliest memories was being about 10 years old and seeing Harley versus Flair in the 3rd row in an hour-long curfew match. And that's what, like if you saw those guys back in their prime, what they did up close, it was crazy. But I just wanted to keep the wrestling cards because I liked them. And you know what they were, Tony? They were the '85 tops, but they were OPG up here in Canada.
Yeah.
So OPG prints, they did that, and they printed the '86 or '87 run with the stickers, and I had all of those, and I must have gotten those out of packs because I wouldn't have bought them on eBay then. It was too early. So that's what started. So I sold all my hockey cards, and I had those 2 sets, and then here comes the classic series at the end of the '80s into the '90s, and whatever else, and then the magazine cards, and that was it. And then slowly but surely, you get older, and now behind me I've got these 40,000 cards.
What in your collection do you consider your favorite? That means most to you.
Well, lately those All-Stars look nice every time you see a Hulk Hogan or an Andre go for $1,000. But
yeah,
there's so many. Like I remember 2010 there was a Fleer set, or I guess it was a top set in 2010 called Platinum. That was a bunch of different colors, and I particularly like that one. My favorite sets, probably because of the autograph series, WCW, the late 90s WCW autographs. I have them all, except for obviously the Flair, which I believe there was only one of. I don't have the Bulldog, and I don't have the Booker, again, because there were such limited releases of those. But I'll tell you, Tony, the one card that I don't have from that set that I wish I had, Sandman actually had a card that was labeled Hardcore Hack.
Yeah.
And some dude called me way back, and it was a friend of his, and I think he had maybe a dozen in his possession, and he wanted to sell me one of those Hardcore Hacks. And remember, I have every one of those WCW autographs, from Brett to Elizabeth to Kurt to Benoit, all of them. And he wanted $150, and I said no. And I'll tell you, I think about that every time I see Sandman now, that I regret not getting that one card. My other one regret is the Raw's War Undertaker. I actually did buy that on eBay, and it just never arrived. And I ultimately...
It never arrived?
Yeah, it just didn't ship. The guy claimed he shipped it. It just never arrived. You know what, though? My experience on eBay for most of the Fleer years were good. Like in 1,000 transactions, I maybe had 2 or 3 that pooched. And to be honest with you, one of those was the Undertaker Raw's War. And I remember I paid $200, which was a lot of money then. So those are my 2. The Hardcore Hack autograph from the WCW series that I never got my hands on, and the Undertaker Raw's War. And to this day, what did I say, 1,300 autographs, I still don't have a Taker autograph.
Wow. Not one Taker autograph of any kind?
No, because there hasn't been that many, you see. So I didn't get the one back in 2002 or whatever it was, and I won't pay today prices to get them. It's like I was almost going to try and buy the Vince autograph from the Transcendent series last year. $1,500.
Yeah, one of my connections at Topps had sent me a box a couple of years ago of whatever product it was. Sent me various boxes of all the wrestling stuff, and I opened one of the box and I pulled a number to 10 autograph of Undertaker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I sold it. I had no reason to keep it. I scanned it for archive purposes, and then
your site is your cards collection, as you say.
Huh?
You like to say that the website is your card collection. So
the website is my card collection. It really is.
Like I can open that case behind me and show you like binders and binders and binders of cards. You know, no, I don't. You know, I don't even look at them that often anymore. You know, like the other day, my buddy was over. We're watching a pay-per-view, and he was talking. He's into figures, and he said to me that, "Oh, I found at my mom's place in the attic some old figures." And then I asked him which ones they were, and I think they were the LJNs. And I told him, you know, the backs of those things we used to collect as cards, and I have some of them, but I couldn't remember like how many I got so many years ago. And I came looking for them. It was the first time I actually stuck my face in there in a while. And then just for fun, I pulled out the All-Stars, right? Because you guys had been talking about them,
Yeah.
or just like seeing that they were worth a lot. And I took them down. And he was on eBay, and he saw what a current Hogan was going for, what an Andre was going for, and you know, my partner was like, "Excuse me, how much are they worth? How many of those do you have?" You know, and I'm like, hey, you know, these are the creams. So those ones I look at, you know, because that set really is a great set, the original All-Star set. But you know, it's just been a labor of love.
That's what the whole website for WTC really started as, a labor of love. Well, originally it started out as because I needed some place to kind of keep track of my collection, and that's what it was, based on my collection. And then it just kind of really morphed itself into becoming a labor of love. And then when, you know, David and I,
from the time you guys started, from the time you guys started to the time you guys stopped, you were my number one resource. Like my checklist came from you guys, right? I communicated more with Dave, I think,
yes.
back in the day, and you guys were kind enough to add my name as a contributor, but I was on there regularly, you know, and pointing out things, and we were sort of in the universe together trying to figure out what was going on. It was great.
Yeah, it's we've met a lot of people that way that trying to help out. So, and most of the time I had started building relationships with all the manufacturers, even back in the 90s. I built I was very tight with the people over at Comic Images, so I knew about all that stuff, and people throwing around rumors about this, that, and the other. I knew were just like, that's false. I'm talking directly to the president.
You used to get the sell sheets, and I bought a few from you. You used to get like sell sheets for sets that wouldn't turn up on eBay. You used to get your hands on a lot of things that were a little rarer.
Yeah, you speak of those WCW sets, by the way, and those autograph cards that never were released in the actual packs. I mean, I had a hardcover hack. I got rid of it a long time ago. Never had a flare. I didn't have a book.
I think it was just one.
I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you the Rey Mysterio ones. That, you know how they got to the public.
Through you? I've got one.
He came. That's how they first came to the public, was because he had a whole, what they call a brick. He had a whole brick of them, and he was at a collectible show in California called Frankenson with his manager and doing an autograph appearance. And it was between the WCW time and he first came to WWE. And so he had all these cards. I go, where the hell did you get these? Oh, a card company sent them to me. I just never got around to them. And he signed several in red, several in black, several in blue. And I said, well, I'll buy like 20 or 30 of them off you right now. And we made a deal, and I started letting them go to the public.
Perfect. Yeah. There's a few that weren't in packs. I mean, the Bobby Duncombe wasn't in packs.
Nope.
What other ones?
Mikey Whipwreck?
Yeah. I have all of them, except for the hardcore hack, except for the flare, except for the Booker. I've only seen the Booker on eBay once, so that's very limited. But all the rest of them, and it's great because there were so much now. Like,
well, it's going to be a fun conversation coming up here the next week. I've got a gentleman who worked on those sets, so I'm hoping that he can kind of authenticate or give the process on how those things came, because they were all on-card signatures, meaning they pre-printed these cards, sent them out to their connection, which I believe was Jimmy Hart, was the one who was actually facilitating all that stuff between the two companies. And find out what really exists and what doesn't. Because the rumor's always been, well, there's an Ultimate Warrior one, there's an Eric Bischoff one, there's a Ted Turner one. No one's ever seen those.
Yeah, but those three sets, because they came out over three different top releases. I think it was NWO, then an embossed set. The three that
Premiere, there was a Nitro, and then an embossed.
Yeah, and I think there was 105 or in around there somewhere.
106 different autographs, I think.
Yeah, but to your first question, that would be my favorite series of wrestling cards, because they're just so cool looking. And those first few Topps releases were the first ones really that had a lot of chase cards, that had stickers potentially, that had the memorabilia cards. Up until then, the Comic Images had, hints of that, and the Fleer stuff that followed, obviously. But those first Topps sets, they were really the first full-on, full-fledged wrestling card sets that sort of did what hockey and baseball.
Yeah. Well, that Hogan swatch from embossed was the very first, event-worn card done in wrestling. I believe it's also the first one done in considered non-sports as well.
Yeah. I have that one.
Yeah. So that's when the No Mercy set came out from Comic Images that had those swatch cards afterwards, the Jericho and the DX and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there was some autograph cards in that set too, wasn't there?
In the No Mercy set, did they do? Yeah, they did autographs in that one. Yeah, Hardcore Holly, I think, something like that.
Wasn't there a Hardy Boys one that was rare that you got your hands on?
Hardy Boys as well.
I don't
you know what else?
I don't know what.
No Mercy. I have to go double check now. It's like that. But
I don't know if I ever got that Hardy Boys one. So that might be one you have that I know.
Hardy Boys were one of as well. It's like that. I actually have one sitting around here somewhere. Like I showed it to Dave the other day. That never got put in release.
I don't think I ever bought that from you.
But these were this was an official autograph card from the SmackDown set.
Oh, right.
A PMS like that. And she had put these on. I have a bunch of these.
That one I think I have. And I might have gotten from you maybe. I don't know.
Because I bought about a dozen off of her. She had a whole stack at her show. I was doing a show in New Jersey, and she was there. I was working with Kevin Nash. And she shared the table with us, and she had a whole bunch on her table. I ended up buying a bunch off of her.
Nice. You know what card you mentioned on your last video that I thought about was the Hurricane Mask from the All Access set. For the longest time, that was sort of my holy grail.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, there's been stuff in the last decade probably that outpace it, but I had the Farouk knee brace, and I had the Kurt Angle medal, but I could never get my hands on that Hurricane. And you mentioned that you had it. I'm like, oh
yeah,
long since I heard about that.
And they sent that to me. The lady that was my rep over at Fleer, you know, because you had the redemption cards, and so sometimes I'd call to check out my redemption card and see what was going on. She just said I was one of the nicest people that never complained or bitched all the time and gave her shit, you know, for like, where's my stuff? And she just said, send it to me as a reward. You know, I said, I took some stuff from the vault and I sent it to you. Just expect it in the mail because we're all getting laid off.
That's quite nice. That's quite a nice reward.
Yeah, well, she sent me that, the Farouk, the Triple H off the mat graph, you know, and then she sent me various packs. Of course, I pulled a redemption card for like those, the matching set, you know, for the Ultimate Diva collection. Can't do anything with it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like a Stone Cold Deborah one or something like that, I think it was. But so I want to talk to you about your price guide, by the way. So
all right, well, let me show it to you. Here's the original book version that came out in 2010, and it's a very interesting story. So well, I'll tell you the story.
And I wish I had my copy with me, but you know, a lot of my stuff is still stuck in storage in California. I'm in Arizona now, so I'm hoping to get it all moved out here soon.
Our current site, the Wrestling Price Guide, is what sort of carried on from the book, because the book stopped in 2010.
Yeah.
But here's the story of the book. I didn't actually write the book. I just compiled it. Do you want to know the name of the guy that wrote the book? I'd like to know his name as well. I don't know who he is. All I don't know the name of the guy who I wrote the book with. Never seen the guy face to face. I never spoke to him. Back in the Fleer days, there was a dude that had a website called Wrestling Card Universe, and he went by the name of Grimm.
I remember Grimm very well.
Remember Grimm? Now Grimm was
he would always respond to your emails in all caps, italicized, and in purple.
Yep, all bold and in pink and green, and that was our communication. And the only thing I knew about the guy was that he sold wrestling cards, and every so often I'd buy one from him. He responded in all caps and in funky colors when he emailed. I knew that he lived in Elmira, New York, which is maybe about 4 hours away from here, and that he was a musician in a band, as was I at the time. And that was it. And just through communication by email, we created the guide. We never spoke once. I
spent many hours on the phone with him.
Did you? Well, then you're one up on me because I never spoke to him, right? And he was the guy, again, he actually designed the cover. He came up with most of the original prices, which got transferred to the site and haven't been updated. That's why I mentioned that for David Peck, we should get those All-Stars updated because he knows the value of those. And that's what I rely on. Truckster's been giving me all the numbers for the Tops Now stuff because he's the aficionado on that. And Grimm was the original price guy, and he knew better than anybody. So he would basically give me the numbers. Now, what I did was I took my collection, took my Google spreadsheet, and I chop it up into, okay, here's this set. And he'd plunk in the numbers, send it back to me. And from there, I produced the guide. And those original chunks that he sent me became what's now all the different sets. The Wrestling Card Price Guide is not like WTC insofar as you guys made a flat site where you could click. All my site is just tables of numbers that you can click through to. That's why my site was never going to be able to be a checklist kind of site like you guys that has information on every card. You're never going to get images. My site is just a quick eye check to see what's there and get a rough idea, a very rough idea. That's why it's free, because I don't claim that the prices are accurate. How can you? I don't like that Beckett charges for the card prices because they know less than me. And here they are taking money to give advice to people. I'm like, well, hang on a second here. If I can't tell you what something is worth, and I've got one of the larger collections, I think, kicking around, so I always say, take a grain of salt. I don't do parallel prices. A swatch piece that has 5 different colors is worth more than one. So that's a very, there you go. That's a very difficult thing to stay on top of. But the site was created from the book just to be sort of that resource for people to present day. And we're current. I've tried as best I can to list everything, and it's handy, to go to one place and see that. Now, when you guys get yourself updated, then obviously you'll have a lot more information on each individual set. But in the meantime, there's one place to go where people can check things out.
It's an impressive website nonetheless. I mean, it really is. It's a great resource for people to go get at least an idea of the value of what they have.
Yeah, very roughly. Like once we decide that a relic card shipped to you is worth around $10, then that's the case for everybody until you get to a Ronda Rousey or a Triple H or Undertaker, and we bump accordingly. Same things with autographs, things like that. But again, if you just wanted to see what sets came out in 2019 to get an image of the card, that's what this site will give you. And it gets a lot of people. Like it gets about 4,000 unique visitors a month, and I put some AdSense on there last year, and it's actually a few bucks, and that's the only money I've ever made from the wrestling card hobby. I've never traded a card. I've kept everything. So I'm glad that at least until you guys sort of get yourself back up and running fully, that this can be a stopgap measure for collectors.
As far as the book goes, how many books did you initially sell?
I printed up 500, and I probably got about 175 here. So 300-400. Okay. And if someone wants it one now, it's like $50. I'm not selling it for it's a collector's item, really.
It really is now.
Again, yeah, it was just done really because nothing like it existed. Then I realized afterwards that the site you're showing now, this is a better way to sort of keep up. And you can search by the manufacturer, by the type of card. It's just a different way of presenting the information. But the most interesting thing,
I think it's amazing site.
That I never even spoke to.
I really love it a lot. It's like these cards, the longest time, one of my hardest cards to find were the promos for this.
Yeah. Again, if I got promo cards, I might have gotten them from you back in the day. I don't remember.
I found these 2 promo cards. I found them at a swap meet type place. Never really existed.
Other than those 2 sets that I would have bought when I was a kid, those 85 and 87 OPGs, I've pretty much got everything compiled through eBay. So I don't go buy boxes. I don't go buy packs. I mean, it has happened, but more so, I just want the master set. So I try and find the guy that's broken the case, that's compiled everything for me. And that's how I've gotten everything. And I figured that it's just nice to have a record in one place of every set that ever existed.
Correct.
So on my site, I have it. Of the base cards.
Yeah, base cards. David's that way too. My partner David, he's a base set kind of guy. It's what he likes, just the base sets. He has very few. Like he might have I think he has the Bret Hart autograph card from WCW release. But other than that, I don't think he has anything else. But he likes the base set. So when I used to crack open boxes or cases, I'd make a set for him and just give it to him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an impressive site. I really like the site very much.
Well, I really have to thank my wife, my partner. She's a WordPress designer, so she set it all up for me. And then all I have to do, it's very simple. Once I update a table in my spreadsheet here, it automatically updates to the site. So while we're speaking, I could go in and change a price. I could just go into my Google Docs and change a number, and automatically it gets updated to the site. And then when I do a new set, it's the time-consuming part, to be honest with you, is just typing in all the names and stuff. Now, I'll tell you, one of the most up-to-date places, I think, where myself and most people go is the Cardboard Connection.
Yeah.
Because they provide the actual tops checklist as an Excel spreadsheet. So usually I could go on there, get what they were given by tops, and then create my spreadsheets from there.
Do you can you explain what's the process and you go through to get prices? How do you determine the prices for you?
Well, I started with what Grimm came up with in the book, and I saw sort of how he was doing it. You sort of figure a base set, say any base set, it's $10, maybe $15. Then you go from there. The undisputeds and the ones like that are rarer, they're more obviously the transcendent a lot more, and then you kind of come up with a baseline price for a nobody matte card or a nobody close card that's one color. And then you work from there. Like on a lot of sets, it's lazy. I'll say, here are your prices, but if you have first degree parallel, add $20 to each of the prices. If you have, 1 out of 10, add $40. But it's not an exact science by any stretch. And remember, you got to get the card to you. And a lot of times it costs you more to ship the card than it's actually worth, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. It's not the old days, Tony, where you used to go to places and go to card meets and, up here, I go to the shows and walk around. But it's all hockey. Now, when I did the book in 2010, I did go to Baltimore to the national convention and just to check out the wrestling card scene, but there was none. There was me, there was Grimm, there was you guys. That's it. Your forums really hadn't gotten cooking yet. So it was a small thing. Now it's grown, obviously. I don't know a lot of people like myself north of the border up in Canada, but, I'm talking to you now. I've been dealing with Chuckster for the longest time. So it's all nice that we get to sort of finally create this community. And people understand that, yeah, there's some value to this stuff.
Yeah, there is really much so. I mean, the online market seems to dictate pricing all the time. So like that,
yeah, it seems like it. That's where I get probably 5-6 emails a week asking me how much is this worth, how much is that worth, and eBay helps a bit, but it's best guess kind of stuff.
You list 2 different prices for everything. You have a book price and a market price.
Yeah, so that gives you a range, that kind of cover your ass. At the low end, if you get lucky, it's this. This is what I'd like to say it's worth. And that was a big thing that Grimm was big on. I remember at the time that because I guess baseball and basketball did it that way, a book value and a street value, if you will. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was more so, okay, I really deferred to him because it was his business. I was just a dude that was buying the odd card from him. And we just through emails back and forth, we come up with the idea to put out a book. And I only did it at the time because a buddy of mine had just started a business that was printing books. So I was able to make the books fairly inexpensive. I wouldn't have went and spent big money on any of this stuff because I've never made a dime on the wrestling card hobby, save for a bit of AdSense on the price guide starting last year. Up until then, I never sold anything. If I didn't have 2 of them, they stayed. And they're all sitting behind me. Gotcha. So, like but it's not exact science. I'm the first guy to say that I wouldn't stand and say my price is the definitive price. But I'll tell you, in talking to guys like David Peck, if he can't tell you what the All-Stars are worth, nobody can. And talking to Chuckster, if he knows Topps now because he owns them all. I own a lot of these cards. I can see on eBay which ones come up often, which ones, a lot of times for fun, I'll just trip through and I'll look at old stuff. I'll look at Leaf, I'll look at TriStar, I'll look at all that stuff and see, like, for example, you would have thought that the TriStar, those early TNA sets would come down in value because they cranked out so many autographs. Not the case. Guys that weren't big names like Shark Boy, $40, $50. So you're seeing that, there's value in these cards. And for me, it's like, well, I have a collection here, so I'd like it to maintain its value.
Well, you like to see it go value, of course. Have it's just, I guess trying to say earlier, I spoke to Grimm several times on the phone, and some of our phone conversation would go 3-4 hours in conversations. He would just talk.
That's crazy. We never spoke.
He would, originally it was a kind of uncomfortable conversation with him because we were competitors. We're both selling wrestling cards. And then at the point where Fleer was going under, he had called me and asked me if I was interested in going in on buying out the inventory because he was approached by someone at Fleer. So I called a buddy of mine in SoCal as well. And the 3 of us went into it. Predominantly him and my buddy in SoCal bought the bulk of it, but I got a little bit of it.
I got some of that stuff for sure. When Fleer went out, not through you, but I got my hands on some of that because I remember I got like the Stacy Keeblers and a bunch of things like that real cheap. Yeah. I probably bought about 3 or 4 dozen cards. I can't remember if it was through Grimm. I don't think it was with you. Was it?
No, I don't recall. Most likely it was through Grimm. He was the primary person that had made the arrangement.
I got my hands. He did reach out to me. I did get my hands on some of that stuff because it was, hang on a second here, like this is good pricing on all.
There's a lot of like dress codes and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, yeah. A lot of the divas, a lot of the autograph stuff, the Trish stuff. Trish just lives up the road here. Um,
It's so
that
funny
that kind of
With
thing.
the Trish stuff is funny because I worked with her up in Toronto at the Fan Expo a few years back with her and Lita. And
What did it?
afterwards, it's kind of like it's a wrestling fan's surreal moment. You know, when I'm already working with
Right.
these ladies who I developed a relationship with, and then the show is over on Sunday. We go back to Amy. Lita has already flown back to where she needs to go. My flight's not until later, and so Trish lives there. So she comes back and meets me over back at the hotel room, and she's bringing all her cards that her husband collects of her and says, "Hey, if you want any of these extra ones, feel free." So she gave me a bunch of these national sports convention ones where she kissed them and signed them.
Oh,
She
nice.
gave me a bunch of the off the graph math ones. She's like, "Yeah, I got a whole bunch of extra ones of these things like that." Like, this is great, thanks. And we're both just sitting on the hotel room floor, with our legs crossed like that, and just kind of going through our cards like a couple of kids. It was just a real unreal moment.
Yeah, like those autograph masks now, the Triple H and the Trish, they do well.
Yeah. Well, and so what she had, because she was like everybody else, she signed off, on the card itself, but she signed the
Really?
ones for me because they were blanks. She signed them right on the mat for me.
Oh, nice.
Uh, so and I was like, I'll take this one. It's got more blood on it. That's blood? Yeah, it's blood on that. She goes, why would they do that?
Funny how blood always makes them worth more.
Yeah, of course. So I said it makes it worth more. She goes, I guess you guys are weird.
Yeah,
But
yeah, right.
yeah, I was always curious in how you came up with that, and I do remember you talking about. I think that you were talking to Grimm, and I still have some old emails from him. Um,
Yeah.
and I had heard
He
he had some
I
medical
came up.
problems.
I designed the sets, and we'd have a base set. We wouldn't have the checklist of the base set like you guys have. He had the checklist for most of the chase sets. But even after I was done with the book, I wasn't going to carry on with that. It was going to be okay. Here's one line for the base set. Here's one line for the chase sets. I'll list the relic cards. I'll list the autograph cards. All the weird stuff. Anything that's going to be worth money.
Sure,
That's what we'll price out separately because that could change based on performer, right?
sure,
And you'll see that when you look at my autographs. You're going to see usually some names are worth a bit more than others, and you know who they are. The legends are always going to command a bit more, like a Brad or a Flair. No matter what they sign is always going to be worth a bit more than, I don't mean anything bad on guys like Christopher Daniels, but they sign so many things that you can buy for
sure.
$5, $4. So I have a lot of that stuff. If he signed it and I didn't have it, I wanted it.
I'm just checking on my tablet, checking your site right now too. I wanted to know if you like put prices for parallels.
No, no. In some sets, underneath the picture, I might say add this. Again, this was meant to be not like you guys. Like you guys were a real resource for diehard collectors. This was meant to be something really, because we did the book and I had this template for the book, I was able to transfer it. Again, thanks to my partner, she was able to put that all together for me and keep it up to date so that guys like me and Chuck and Nick, we could quickly on one place go and see, okay, this came out in 16, this came out in 2018. Oh, what was the set called from here? Stuff like that. So that you could easily find, again, not meaning to have near the breadth of stuff that you and David used to do. I wasn't into that. It was more so an easy place where people can come and check things out. And people do. Like a lot of people, like you guys laughingly said that at one point you were in the Google wrestling trading cards up there, but since you stopped, you slipped down. Well, now
Yep,
I've slipped up. And I've never done a thing. Now, if you type in wrestling trading cards, I'll be on page one
yep.
until you guys get updated again. And
It'll
that's
take
with
a
no
long
promotion
time,
at
friend.
all.
It'll take a long time.
You know what I mean, right? It's just because my site gets looked at,
Yep,
and so I haven't stopped doing it because I think that okay, I don't make anything from it or minor money from the AdSense, but you do it for the collectors. And
yep.
so long as Topps doesn't put out 20 fucking sets a year, I'm good with it. Last year I was really frustrated. I'm like, what does this do for us to have this many sets? Now I understand the transcendent and paying, a mortgage to buy a card. Some people
Yeah,
want that really for their own stuff. But most of us collectors, we're just average guys, right? That enjoy the hobby. We don't have that kind of money to spend. Like I don't buy big cards anymore. I'll buy the set, I'll buy the chase cards. Like usually you'll find some guy that's going to offer you the master set, his version of it. And that's it. I'm done. I might pick up one or two relics, one or two, just to have an example of it, but that's it. But if you go back to the Fleer stuff, there's a lot of complete sets of relics that I'll have, like a lot, where I'll
yeah.
have all the relics from this set, all the autographs from this set, all the, back during the Fleer. Like that's where most, because I was spending money then. Because I thought then, wait a minute, I'm kind of speculating on it. And I've never sold it. I've never turned it into cash. And my thing is that maybe one day when I'm old and my last few years, and I'll start eBaying, once a week a card, just, to keep myself going. But it's all still sitting there. That's why it's funny that you guys started this again. I'm like, oh shit, wrestling trading cards. Yeah, I remember that.
So the late 90s, early 2000s was a really exciting time to collect cards like that. I thought for me, just because you had two companies putting out, products like that time. You had Comic Images in the late 90s, early 2000, and then 2000, and then Fleer took over. And when Fleer took over, they kind of legitimized it really as making it like a really cool, like a sports set.
That's really is what solidified. Like this is one of the things I do. But when the Fleer set started coming out, that's when I started building a super checklist. That's when I met you. That's when I met Grim. It became more of before it was, like something I do now. Now it became, this is one of my hobbies. Like I'm going to invest brain power in wrestling trading cards. Well, because no one else is doing it. Just a couple of guys are.
That first set was pretty cool set from Fleer though. That WrestleMania set.
Oh yeah, the Raws were, the Diva sets were really good, like all of them.
Offering that when I saw the release of that online, that's the tail end of my time working for AOL. I was
right.
I started to check
the Home Collect site too, right?
Huh? What was that?
I remember you had your Home Collect site too. Like I remember.
I was going to mention that I had Com Collect before WTC.
Well, I communicated with you then.
Yeah,
that's how far back. You had Com Collect and something of wrestling, and I might have sent you an email, and that was our first sort of instance. But those early days, I don't know how much. I didn't buy any raw deal, and you were big in that. I didn't buy anything.
I wasn't in a raw deal at the time.
You were? You weren't?
I was not. I didn't get in a raw deal in 2005.
But that's what I mean. Like it was, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I remember it was one of the things. You were the guy for that stuff.
But
I've never bought any of that stuff. I've never bought any of the Tops Now stuff. Just
that Com Collect started out because again it was based on my personal collection. I was at the time I collected wrestling cards, Playboy cards, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Star Wars.
Yeah, there you go.
So when you had that, when you go to comcollect.com at the time, it had this 4-card spread of like those, and each one of those little, a Buffy card went to the Buffy section, a wrestling card went to the wrestling section, and that's where it started. And then WTC was born from that. Because between those two times, I was really trying to say, you know what? Nobody has an online price guide for non-sport cards. All you have is non-sport update. Every once in a blue moon, Beckett would put out something for, non-sports. I should put something out. And as a one-person operation, it was a huge undertaking, and I fizzled out quick on that. It was just a lot. And that's where WTC was born really from. And just grew from there.
Yeah, I remember the early days when, especially on those Fleer sets, like you wouldn't get a checklist. So how was I to know what was out there? I would find a guy that would sell me the base set, and I would have no clue. What am I actually trying to get? So that was WTC. That was okay. Here's Raw's War. Here's this set of shirt cards. Here's, according to David Porto, the man, or Tony Bella, how many there are. So that would go into my checklist. That okay, here's the universe of them, and then I would black out the ones I had. And those early, I still have them. Those early spreadsheets are what are still my master checklist for my own personal stuff. It's the whole website, and it all came from that. So the data really came from you guys.
We appreciate it. I like your write-up. You did the write-up in your price guide, correct?
Yeah, I remember at the time I reached out to you guys and I said, hey, on me, say what you need to say. And I can't remember. Is it a page? Let's have a look. Like we have a
back page. At the very back page, we did an ad, and then you kind of plugged us a little bit in your.
Like there's a whole page here just based on your history, and and didn't we do something else? I know there's some stuff on the current site for you guys as well, but I was kind of disappointed when you stopped updating. I understood why. I mean, like it's such an arduous task. It's
an undertaking. When you're doing it, like you said before, we do it as a labor of love, for the hobby, because you're paying all these years to host a website and having to find time to do it. We all have lives, you start growing up, you get married, you have kids, it just becomes, when do you find the time to do it? It's not because we have COVID going on right now. It's not the real reason to say I want to get back into it. I know that I've teased over the last couple of years. I've teased on the message boards about like, hey, we're talking about doing something and talking about doing something. And I feel like I've cried wolf too many times already. But this is
Yeah,
about.
you've done it, and this will be your fourth, and you'll get some more guys. And next thing you know, like these videos, I play in a little. I'm a musician, so that's one of the things I do on the side, and I play in this little Tool cover band, Tool the prog metal band, and we did a quarantine video, and it's got like several hundred views already, and I'm like, wow, like, it's not a ton, but it's something. And you'll find on these as well. I'll tell you, we get a lot of people to the site still. And we don't provide near the breadth of information that you guys used to, and a lot of people come.
I don't know, because
there's no audience right there.
Back in those days, I wasn't really paying attention to the analytics of the sites like that, but I probably should now. I mean, I think we do.
Google.
Yeah, we'll probably
Google,
when I move it over the site. It's the site's definitely getting moved over to a different server. Probably going to go with GoDaddy,
right?
And then which will require a redesign. That's not the real problem. It's going to be actually there's a combination of things. I think the real issue is going to be to, like you said, with all those new top sets, it's so hard to keep up to date. But thank God we have guys like Chuckster and Nick and these guys who are on the boards who are up to date on that kind of stuff.
Well, the good thing is now you'll come to my site. You'll come to my site to get the list of them all, so you know where they all are.
There you go.
I've got them all there for you.
I can go to your site right now. I can find out what I need to at least get a base checklist going.
Yeah. And there's a lot of independent stuff on our site. It's not just the wide releases. There's all the food stuff. There's the promo stuff. There's a lot of stuff on my site, again, that I found out existed way back in the day through you guys, but I've kept up with that. So guys like Nick Kaufman that put out these sort of indie AEW sets, I try and get my hands on them. If I don't buy them, I list them so that people know, so we can be.
Speaking of those, like they're, I hate to use the term, I think they're bootleg sets. So
yeah.
Because
the AEW ones, they're not for sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I do have some sets, German sets and stuff. Like I have a lot of weird shit that obviously was contraband, Indian stuff. I don't even know that if it's in my checklist. But for a long time, I was buying postcards and birthday cards and Valentine cards if they had a wrestler on it. If it was printed, it was on a cardboard, I was getting my hands on it because that was my thing. And there's not a ton, but a lot of that stuff like that gets made.
Yeah, I mean, we're debating about that too. David and I have been talking about it. It's going to be an interesting discussion. I'm going to find some people that maybe have an episode where we can talk about that. Like, where do you draw the line that becomes a collectible trading card and what's not a trading card? And a case in point is, I had to create a Twitter account. It seems like most of the guys that are heavy into collecting are using Twitter over everything else. Yeah. So I created a Twitter account, a week ago. And I'm seeing people post, like one person recently posted those old WWF calendar cards, the Luger and it's like that. It has a calendar in the back.
Cardboard or paper? Were they paper or cardboard?
I think they're cardboard. They're cardboard. I have them. I own them. I know what they're talking about. They're really a trading card.
Yeah. Well, I've got the Cardinal game pieces, earliest shots of the Isaac Lancome, and the first time you're ever going to see The Rock on a piece of card. But it's not.
Game cards are kind of iffy for me too. The game cards are iffy to me. I saw someone had like that WCW Slammiversary game.
Yeah.
It's a game.
I know all that stuff.
The one from Chromie, was it Chromie?
If I pull out one of my wacky binders, just give me a sec. Just see what we can pull out.
Let's see. You don't have them on your site either, so let's open a new window.
Here, Tony. I just grabbed a binder of what I call my weird shit stuff.
You get the weird shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you see these?
Yeah.
These, I don't know what these are, but like this is all weird stuff, like playing cards. You ever seen these before?
Yeah. No, I have not.
This kind of stuff. This is some early WCW.
Plenty of those. Yeah, I've seen plenty of those.
Yeah. And then postcards, and these ones actually. These Stewarts are actually papers. So
yeah, I like those. I have those. Yeah, those are nice.
And then postcards. I don't know if you've ever seen these, or Canadian only. Like there's
again, they're postcards.
And then black and white, and like this is all weird shit that I don't even think I got any of this stuff cataloged. I don't know what this is. These are postcards from God knows where. So I've got a lot of stuff like that isn't sanctioned. Like these here are telephone cards of some description.
I have those too.
Yeah. And then this was what we were talking about the other day, figures, cards, cut out from the back. And on and on and on. Point being is that there's a lot of stuff that sort of, are they wrestling trading cards, or not?
Yeah, and that's a wonderful topic that I want to talk about with maybe a panel of people, and to talk about where do we draw the line of what's an actual trading card and what's not a trading card.
Well, where do you draw the line? Card. Is it a card? Is it paper? Right? And then we get into a larger discussion.
But even then you have paper cards where a magazine says cut out collectible cards in it from the old, the 80s, like that.
Yeah, because there's no cards in the 70s except those, right? The 70s stuff, they didn't have anything like that. So people say, here's an Andre, and it's a piece of paper, but no. But unless it was a card, there are some magazines where the WCW ones you guys were talking about, they're actual cards.
Correct. Those are cards. They're perforated cards.
Yeah. So I'm not going to make any value judgment on that stuff. If someone decides to create a little side set of something and I get my hands on it, I'll price it.
I mean, if you have that was that 81 Wrestling Superstars magazine with Hogan and Andre on the covers like that. It says wrestling trading cards, trade them and collect them all. They're paper.
Yes.
So that kind of breaks the definition of a trading card.
Yep.
Because you said it's on card, but they classify it as a card.
Yeah. Help them sell magazines, right?
So I just again, it's where do you draw the line? My point is, I guess. I mean, it's a trading card because it has a calendar in the back of it. Now it's a trading card because it's a little oversized card, so it's not a trading card. It's a
I mean, we know what is. We know the wide release stuff. Like even the All Stars wasn't really a wide release, right? So, and we consider that the Holy Grail, or maybe not the Holy Grail, but one of the sort of ultimate sets now. That early set with Andre and all the guys, and it was just a regional set, wasn't it?
Yes.
So you can't really go by wide release.
I just it's wonderful to talk about it and find out what people's different definitions are of what's considered a trading card and what's not. Like we're as we move the site over to a new place, we're going to have to make a decision if we want to continue. Do we want to carry and have checklists for stickers? Probably not. We're probably going to remove that section.
Stickers.
Yeah, all those hostess cards and things like that, those tag team stickers, they're probably going to disappear from our site.
Right.
Just because they're not trading cards, they're stickers.
No, you guys, no one came close to having sort of the breadth of listings as you guys. So you guys were it.
I mean, we're probably going to get rid of the CCG stuff, even though that's kind of been the CCG stuff, all that raw deal and that WCW card game crap. We'll probably get rid of it. Because
originally I didn't even do the Chucks now, but because Chuckster has such a good checklist of it, I've included it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that CCG stuff is my Vela cards business. So I mean, I have all those checklists already because I own every single image and card that ever was made from that stuff.
Right. Do you still have them?
I still have them.
Yeah.
I have all 3,000 plus images that I paid someone to scan my master collection. Now I don't play the game anymore like I used to. I don't collect them. It's a full-fledged business for me. So I've merged my entire inventory of all my master set and went into my inventory. So I no longer have a master set anymore, but I have all the images.
Is there a market still for those cards?
Absolutely. That game has been out of print since 2007, and my sales since COVID hit have been 15-year highs.
Really?
Yep.
So people are rediscovering those old sets that they can't get their hold of back on eBay.
New guys are coming into it. There's a wrestling card game? Really? This is cool. Or old guys are coming back and saying, I'm getting back into the game now.
They had in England, they had a few sets like that. I got a couple of them that were games.
Yeah.
The lenticular stuff. Like I have a lot of stuff away from North America too.
They had stuff in Italy, same thing.
Italy, the Merlin stuff. You remember the wacky Irish WCW set?
Yep.
There's been the one thing I haven't touched is Japanese. There's so much of that stuff.
That's a hard thing.
But I've never gotten into Japanese. That's a whole different world.
To this day, I'm still looking for someone or a couple people, if I'm lucky, who can actually, help us at least gather the information of what's been released out there. I've been fortunate to grab a bunch of stuff. What's on the website now, a lot of it came from stuff that I got from someone who brought it back from Japan for me. When I worked at AOL back in the day, we had a guy who would frequent Japan quite often, and he was a wrestling fan, and he would go and bring me back stuff. And then he would help me translate because it was all in Japanese. so we can get an idea
Right.
what it was.
My guess is that there's as many Japanese sets as there are North American sets.
You're right.
Maybe
You're absolutely
a
right.
couple of ways that made them. They made a ton.
There might even be more,
And those
actually.
sets go back further. Like, we didn't really have sets here until the 80s. There wasn't anything in the 70s, really.
Yep.
And you know, we had like, it was really the Topps 85 that started it all. There was nothing really before that. Like, even on my price guide, I talk about the exhibit postcards, and we get into the Parkhurst, which was the old Canadian stuff.
Yep.
You know, few scant weird sets, and then boom, you're at Topps 85, and that's when it really starts.
Yep. Yeah.
And then we get into the
Absolutely.
classics, the Wonderama, all that.
So with your website, how often are you spending? How much time are you devoting to your website as far as updating it? Like how often do you update? How often do you go back and revisit pricing and figure out, hey, the market's changed, I got to change it?
Not very often, unfortunately. You know, it's something I should be doing, because you're right. It needs that too. Yeah, like you say, like, life gets in the way, and that's why I make the disclaimer that, you know, take all these numbers with a grain of salt. We aim to be accurate, but no, I haven't gone back. I'd prefer to be more accurate. Like, again, I mentioned the All-Star set, because that's something that is trading regularly, and a guy like David Peck knows that value. So the exhibit cards, the All-Stars, maybe those WCW autographs that we talked about, but my numbers are way off on those. I have those at 60, $70, when we all know that most of the big names now are several hundred.
Yeah.
Same with the All-Stars. There's a bunch that I'm way low on. Even in my personal collection, I have my own value that I apply to my own collection, and it's way lower than what my price guide site would suggest, which is way lower really on market. But the reality is that it's what one guy and one seller are going to do on the moment. You know, if I happen to want a Chris Benoit WCW 1998 autograph, right? You know, that guy's going to have a lucky day. The rest of his autographs are going to sit for the next 6 months, and nothing's going to happen. So you go on to sites where you see the whole universe of the cards listed, but how often do they actually sell these things? But if, again, you're saying you're selling a raw deal, you sell a few cards a week, maybe there's a living there, or at least a bit of extra cash for people.
So do you have any plans on updating like those autograph cards in price wise?
Insofar
because I would imagine there's a lot of people now, because, you know, since we never deal with prices, period. So as WTC through Facebook and even through the old email address layout, the number one thing we'd always get asked was, well, two things. One was, how much is it worth? I have these cards. What are they worth? Or, I'm looking for these. Can you sell them to me? They think that we're selling stuff. And so I always refer them to your website when it comes to pricing. So if someone came to me and said, hey, I've got this Chris Benoit autograph card, you know, what's it worth?
You can go out there and pay for pricing, and I'm not so sure you're going to get something that's any more accurate, is the point. Now, maybe these guys are spending more time, and if someone is spending time getting the information from eBay and using their information, their data to create more accurate, but I don't, you know, I'm not going to split hairs on a $5 or $10 relic card. Grim used to do that. He'd have one card that was $8 and one card that was $7. It's like, dude, you know, you're doing that just because this performer is a little higher long, and so many things factor into it. You know, performer dice are worth more. Performer, you know, that one card of Donald Trump, which is just a base card cutting Vince's hair, is a lot of money all of a sudden. Silly stuff like that dictates, you know. To answer your question, I don't have any immediate plans. I just want to keep the site current. In other words, just make sure that all the sets are there, so that someone needs to know, oh, did I get all the sets from 2017? What am I missing? Again, because that's the role that you guys used to do, and that's sort of for me to do until you guys get caught up again. And then my site will just be a sort of an adjunct of what you do that just has some loose numbers attached to your much more detailed checklists. And that's the idea. So once you guys, I know it's going to take you guys a while, but once you sort of get updated, that'll be great. But for me, it's just this year, there's not going to be a lot of sets, so I'll just update the few that come out, and that's it.
Because, man, I like to go back, and if I can get that Bret Hart autograph card for the price you got it listed for, I'd love it.
yeah. What is it listed for? Tell me.
I'm actually going to go check it out right now.
Yeah, like all those are going to be wrong. Because, and again, if you look 5 years ago, it's doubled since then, right?
Correct. Actually, I checked the wrong one. I remember which.
I believe now that the Benoit is one of the most valuable.
Yes, I believe you're right too. I mean, Bam Bam Bigelow goes for good money. Bill Goldberg goes for good money.
Yeah, you see, I've got every one of those, except the hardcore hack.
I mean, Savage right now, you've got it listed as market. You know, Book price 160, market price 125.
Yeah, it's 3 times that.
Easy.
That's why I don't want to charge for the information. Because really, you know, even if you did stay on top of it, Tony, and you got that number closer, there's still how many other cards that, you know, that all those autos, every one of them are going to be wrong and need to be bumped, right? The Parker sets are way low. Like the vintage stuff, the older stuff, the stuff that people want is really what I should focus on to get those numbers right. You know, I don't think people care about a 2015.
You got Benoit 350 for book price and 250 for.
That's even pretty good. So that has been bumped because that would have been lower and probably bumped along the way.
Yeah.
So I do go
Eddie Guerrero's 400 and 300.
Yeah, so yeah, that wouldn't have been the original price in the book. Like if I look in the actual book, if I go to the 1990, is that 98 or 99?
98, 98 series 1.
Okay, so 98, let's see what it was in the printed book at, because it wouldn't be that high for sure. 98 WCW tops.
Yep.
Autographs, Benoit 275. Oh no, Guerrero 300. So these are Grimm prices then. Grimm came up with these prices, like the Hollywood Hogan 375, and I haven't touched them. But you can see some of them need to be upgraded for sure.
Yeah,
like he's got Wrath at $100. I'm not sure why that would be.
Who?
Wrath, $100. Maybe
Yeah.
That was a rare one. I don't know. Yeah, Giant would be more now for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I came up with this stuff, and I still have to look in the book to find out.
It's
like I said,
interesting. Yeah. There's a name that Grimm, good old Grimm. I had heard a story about him that he had either gotten injured, he had back surgery.
Oh, did he?
And then wife or girlfriend, whoever he was with, like that, they split up. He moved to Pennsylvania or something like that. And then supposedly
he was quite vocal about that, I recall.
Huh?
He was quite vocal about that divorce. I remember now that you mentioned
very vocal about it. And she took a lot of his inventory, a lot of his, I still think he's selling online, by the way.
Hasn't reached out to me in 10 years.
Oh, I'm telling you, go on eBay and there's a person on there called It Is What It Is.
You think that's Grimm?
That's Grimm. Same formatting, same inventory, same way that everything's capitalized.
Really?
Yep.
Do me a favor, when we're done this, send me the link to it. Because again, even when the book came out, we spoke maybe once or twice, and then, I didn't make any money on the book to share any proceeds with them. And then I forgot about it. And then a couple of years later, Susan made up the site for me to start. And we've just sort of gone that way since.
I'm going to go search them up right now. So I'm almost certain that it's Find Stores. No, I want to find
Well, that's one of the great mysteries then, if he's still out there. If he's still out there, I haven't heard from him.
I'm almost certain it's got to be him. It has to be him.
You and I went a decade without speaking, probably, right? Because you weren't involved.
At least.
You weren't active, and I think a couple of times I emailed you about what was going on with the site, and I offered once to take it over if you guys were done.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to. I just wanted to. I just knew that people out there were looking for that information.
I got to go look it up. It's a guy. I think his eBay account name is It Is What It Is.
Send them to me, yeah, because I'll send that guy an email and say, hey, are you Grimm?
And I think his real name was Christopher.
Yeah, you know what? Some Polish sounding name, maybe. I on the back of an envelope.
Right.
Yeah, we never spoke on the phone, that's for sure. And just by emails, we got along wonderfully, just getting this all done. I'd send him the stuff, he'd plunk it, I'd find mistakes, I'd send it back to him, he'd send it to me, done, print.
He definitely was a character, that's for sure, but very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Had an incredible collection of stuff, incredible inventory of things. And, I used to personally go, I got to get more than that guy. I have to have more than him. And then somewhere out of the blue,
I'd love to meet him.
Somewhere out of the blue, we exchanged phone numbers and he called me. And I remember sitting up on the phone with him till 3 a.m. one time, my time, 6 a.m. his time.
Huh.
And it was ridiculous. I just couldn't believe that we spent all that time, and he would tell me all these stories about this, that, and the other, and other guys were competing. So wasn't he like Master of the Dark or something like that was his name?
Yeah. Yeah, it was all, that's where Grimm, all that dark sort of gothy kind
Yeah.
of darkness.
He had
That
like
was his thing.
the Grim Reaper was like his logo.
He was in the band because he said that when he left his wife, I remember him saying he was going to go on the road again. We had a couple of communications of, oh, you play, I play, da da da. Um, but yeah, he was a character, all right, and
Definitely
he's the guy
characters
that's
like
responsible
that.
for the book. That's why I don't even know if I credited him in the book. If I say anything, I think I did, but you know, he really. It was just weird the way it all happened, but it spoke to the sort of changing times that you could do a project like this with a guy you've never met and come up with something just by communicating back and forth online.
Is there
Now,
there's no chance of a second issue coming out, is there?
a printed version?
Yeah.
No,
Never.
no. There's just too much top stuff. Go look over the last years and count with the wide release and the tops now. How many different sets just from tops? Before we start talking about the Leaf stuff, and what these regional guys are making. Like there was a set that came out maybe about 5 years ago that was made up here called the Golden Age of Quebec Wrestling, and it was really nice. Had the Rougeaus and a lot of those characters, and even had Kevin Steen. Um, so those kinds of releases are interesting to me. So some of the stuff that Nick is doing with his Lucha Libre, it's great stuff because those cards wouldn't get made. There's a federation up here called Greektown, and they've had Foley up here. They've had MVP several times. That's why I'm so surprised that he's the main guy on Raw now. Like 5 minutes around the corner from my house in the basement. And I've talked to him. I said, you want to get a card set going? And I was going to reach out to some of these independent guys and say, hey, make something. You know what I mean? And you can sell them at the shows because these guys do, and they rely on their merchandise. A lot of these guys, you know, those these indie shows, you deal with them. That's a lot of their income is their T-shirts and their things like that.
Done plenty of those shows. I'm well aware of those.
Yeah, like those people. I'm friendly with these guys, these independent wrestlers, but I've never sort of made contact with big names, WWE names and stuff like that. I was just a fan that liked wrestling and happened to be left with a bunch of wrestling cards at a key point in my life, and I kept them. And then when I bought more, it turned into something. That's all it was.
It's kind of how it happens, right?
Right?
Could have been
Well,
something.
this is honestly the first time that I'm really speaking about the hobby to anybody.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I communicate by email to tons of people, but no one knows who I am or what I do.
Do you keep up to date with I mean we know about the Chucksters and the Knicks like that. Are there other key people that are in the game right now that you think that are worth reaching out to?
Only only through your forums. I'll go onto the forums every once in a while, and it's the same 4 or 5 guys for the last several years talking about the now stuff. And so no, not really. That's why when you did this, I thought right away, oh, this is cool because now Tony's got a video format that I can chat with Tony, and here's Dave, and here comes David Peck. You can get Grimm, you can get Nick, you can talk to your contacts at Tops, to Clear, or whatever. And based on sort of the likes and stuff so far, I think people are digging it. They're liking this whole idea of meeting some of the characters behind the hobby.
It's really getting a good positive reviews like that. I'm curious because you mentioned the forums like that, and earlier you mentioned Cardboard Connections like that. Are there other forums that are discussing wrestling cards at all, or were there other?
You guys, your forum is still there isn't a lot of energy behind the hobby that I can see, and I think David was mentioning a little more, Dave Peck, about Twitter that I don't do as much of, and Instagram. I would go, maybe every 3-4 days onto your thing, check recent posts, who's talking what, and that's what I did when I found all of a sudden, hey, there's a video, and then I watched the video the next morning whilst I was working, and then there's Tony Vella, there's David Porto, dudes that I've chatted with over years but never met face to face. I've never met Chuck, I've never met Grimm, I've never met Nick, I've never met anybody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice now that, if we're going to be the gatekeepers of the hobby, and Cardboard Connection is part of, I think, David and Adam's Card World, and they're part of a much bigger card thing, but they do a good job. Their editor there does a nice job of listing sets when they're coming. But the thing is, you got to click around. Sorry?
Who is that?
I don't recall the guy's name. It's the guy that pretty much edits all of the Cardboard Connection sites, and he'll do one page where he'll just
his name Ryan.
He'll describe the site. Sorry?
Ryan.
Again, I don't recall his name. You'd have to go onto Cardboard Connection and see. They provide what the set is, then they do a checklist, and it's handy that way. And a lot of times they actually give you a link to the actual tops list, which is usually an Excel format, and then it makes my life easy to plunk it into my master set and get it ready to publish for the website. But it's not that much fun when Tops is doing this every second month. And it bothers me more as a collector, to be honest, because a guy like me or Dave Porto, we've sunk some time and money into this. And it's not like we're looking to get the money back. If all of a sudden I was to sell my card collection, I'm going to lose tens of thousands, not thousands, tens of thousands. So I did it just for the enjoyment of it. That's why it's nice that you've created this, and we can, you and myself and David, we could sort of be the guys that are sort of outside of Tops that are making money on this product, hand over fist, looking after the hobby. Not to say that they don't care about it.
I wonder if I should be reaching out to other people on the board.
Top should be supporting that. Top should be supporting this. Like, Top should be sponsoring this video. They should be helping me with my price.
You know what's funny is that you mentioned that, because my wife was asking about the same thing too. About,
remember the back of the book, I got this advertisement for.
I set that up for you.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. You know, but I didn't make any money off of it, I don't think.
No.
You just got me a free one.
I reached out to Jeff Rosenberg, who's the president and CEO for TriStarts like that, and he was able to get that for. You're the first one to have that actual advertisement before it actually got released anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't think he promoted wrestling stuff. He just put it out there, and that was it. And that's the same thing with the Tops. You know, like, I remember going into a Toys R Us store several years ago, and walking by a card thing, and I saw some wrestling there. I couldn't believe it. And that I bought a pack just for the fun of buying and opening a pack. It was probably the first time in forever, if ever, that I'd done it. Like, for me, wrestling cards has always been through guys like you, but more so just eBay, you know. And I know what I want to pay for the stuff. I won't buy it if it's more. You know,
well, you know, advertising and doing some sort of kind of sponsorships like that, that's always been a difficult thing to do. And David and I have talked about it before. And my wife even recently mentioned about somehow monetizing like these videos and blah, 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 and this and that. Like, listen, in my experience with all the manufacturers, all the manufacturer really cares about is selling out their product. If it leaves their warehouse and goes to distributors' warehouses, it's a sellout and they're done. They don't care. They've made their money.
Yeah, and you know what markets they happen to create after the fact, and none of their concern, because they can kill those markets just as
they don't care.
You know,
their product.
So it's not
to sell out.
It's my tough luck if something that I had is, it's like the real estate market here in Toronto. If you buy something today, it may be worth more, but just as easily it may be worth less. You know?
Yeah, it would have been nice to have some sort of.
I do it for fun.
It would have been nice to have some sort of backing from a manufacturer and stuff like that. We even tried when I got invited. I took a tour of the Tops facility, and matter of fact, it came on a timeline for me as a memory. I went in 2015, I think it was, or 2014. I did a buddy of mine who used to work for Tops. He brought me there, and I went through the whole process and got my checked in and scanned and went upstairs and got to walk the offices. And here's an uncut sheet of this, and here's this, and it was like a kid in a candy store for me. But going there and just realizing that they don't have any interest in really pushing and advertising their products outside of wherever their normal channels are to the distributors, because they just want to get it out of their warehouse. They print it, they package it, they release it, they sell it off to distributors, and that's their problem. Now they became like, we made our money, our distributors bought it, we flipped over, we're good. Sell out, we're done. We even tried to get them. We tried to get them years ago. David and I were thinking about, because we had such a strong connection with people there at Tops, like, hey, what would it take for us to have an exclusive promo card just for WTC on your upcoming set?
Yeah.
How cool would it be to have, like, your, back when, the WWE Insider set was coming out, how cool would it be to have an Insider set that, numbered WTC 1? That's all we ask.
Oh, well.
There was so many hurdles to jump and hoops to go through. It was like, how hard is it? Okay, what I got to pay for how much? It's going to cost me what, $500 for a 1,000 cards? I don't know, whatever. Now in today's world, because we can use websites like makeplayingcards.com, or there's other kinds of websites that you can actually print out professional cards. And I think that's where guys like Nick and them are using it for his new, also known as set, which I think is a beautiful looking set, by the way. It's easy to do these bootleg sets now. I call them bootleg sets. So maybe we could just do our own one day for WTC on our own. Who knows?
Maybe.
I'm thinking way ahead of the game.
That might be part of the future. Well, all of a sudden, here comes digital cards. What are they?
I don't get that at all.
Me neither. And I'm looking at them. People buying these things. I'm like, well, hang on. I have the actual card. I want to hold it in my hand. That's where the value is. But people pay $10 for something they can download on the phone to just have a JPEG image or whatever it is, the equivalent of that. So I've never understood that market at all. And they crank these things out, Tony, like you wouldn't believe. There's tons of these sets.
I understand. I think they crank them out the next day after an event happens.
That's the Tops Now stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the digital stuff, the stuff that isn't printed. right? Digital card sets. There's tons of those. Like if you go and type in Topps Master Set, very few are actually going to be cards. It's going to be mostly these digital ones.
What do you think about that?
Well, they're not real, right? You know,
Don't you have an option? Don't you have an option because you bought it? Don't you have an option for them to send it to you or something, or no?
The printed card?
Yeah. Or is it, no, it's strictly digital.
No. Like if I buy a set of 100 images, they're not going to send me 100 cards. They have base sets. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I've stayed away from it, obviously.
I don't get it. That's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, me too. But that's the thing. You know that, right?
Well, of course, I know of it. I do know of it. I just never understood how it worked. But I guess it makes sense. It's almost like just, why should I go out and buy a CD or record now? I can just go stream it through Spotify now or something like that, you know? But
sure.
I like to have the record.
Yeah, me too. If you go onto eBay and type in wrestling trading card, half of them aren't going to be actual printed trading cards. They're going to be digital. They're just going to be images of trading cards. They'll send you a file.
That's
I don't understand it. Like, you know, like, is there value there?
Of course, I guess
I'm still hoping there's value in the cardboard stuff.
The argument against you, like, well, Tony, didn't you just say that WTC is basically your collection now? So what's the difference? I go, well, I guess you got me there, I guess, but I.
Well, then I'm in a lot of trouble because you know what I want. You know what I want to have? I want to have this. Here, let me show you. You can't replace this, right?
Yeah.
You know, you cannot replace this. There's no amount of digital, and this is the real deal, guys. And this is these days.
That's the beautiful.
$1,000 worth of actual trading cards, and then, you know, like this stuff. Back to your magazines. These are okay because they're actual cards, right?
Yeah,
like
those are beautiful.
magazine. And then the Wonderamas. But there's no way that a digital is ever going to replace this for me.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And, you know, I could probably buy myself something nice with these two cards right here.
For the right price, you could probably put a nice down in a house.
Yeah, exactly.
And who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really excited to see, there's a small part of me that, because I don't collect anymore and I haven't for years, there's a small part of me when I see things like that, or I see what's going with the David Peck, or I see things going with other collectors and the Chucksters putting up stuff and people tweeting, you know, nice pull, you know, nice hit. You know, it's like, oh man, that feeling of opening up packs and boxes again, that's kind of, it's intriguing to me to do that again because I used to buy cases. And I'm like, you know, but I know the realization is, you know, I really can't afford to be doing that anymore. It's like that, but it's exciting to me because now it's like, you know, getting the website back up and running again. And well, I mean, it's running, but, you know, make it up to date and provide that service again. It's just so the whole world and the whole market is so exciting right now to see where it's at compared to where it was, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's like that, where it was just like, oh, you collect wrestling cards? You're such a nerd.
Well, yeah, we are, but you know, that's one of the things I do.
Yeah, no different.
I think these videos are going to spark a lot of interest, you know, because it's an opportunity. There's a lot of guys like us out there that like this stuff, but there's no real information. And now here's two guys that know about the stuff a little bit, talking about it, you know, just friendly, having a chat. I think it's great. The first one,
I like having these chats. These chat sessions. I mentioned in previous videos, for my Velocards one especially, where I just talk about there's a reason why I started doing these videos. You know, one was to provide content, obviously, but two, from a personal standpoint, it's for me to feel comfortable being in front of a camera, which I'm much more comfortable now than I ever was. I hated it. I used to hate it.
Look like a star.
Also, it's to help me with my speech because I am a very fast talker at times. So it's to help me kind of slow it down. You know, don't get overly excited. You know, I still can't watch any of these. I won't, when we're done with this, I won't watch it. Okay, I'm done. This is it. I'm done. My wife will put it on the big screen TV in the living room and I can't stand it. And
I'll watch it once and that's it.
Huh?
I'll watch it once and that's it.
Yeah, I can't watch them. I'm going to go back and because now I'm learning some video editing skills now. So because I've had some videos in the past that we got cut out, had to restart and re-record. So I had to learn how to splice it together.
These, right?
Huh?
You could edit a Zoom. You could edit a Zoom video if you wanted to, right?
Of course I could. Well, I mean, now I'm using a video edit. What I'm saying is before is I would have a Zoom session get edited early. Like, oh no, we got to get back on, start talking. And I go, well, I don't want to do a part one and part two. Let's put it all together, splice it together. So I had a girl that was helping me out, and she's such a lifesaver and helped me out with one of them. And then I said, you know what? I want to kind of learn this myself. So I went, I downloaded a video editing tool, and I can do a splash screen with some music and an intro and da 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 da. And so
That's
now,
cool, too.
huh?
I said it's fun too.
It's fun. I do a lot of
Like
graphic.
where we were before we started this, when I was downstairs, that's my audio room. And that's my studio down there, and I play music down there, and I have loads of fun doing that stuff.
I just
I don't have hobbies like that.
I self-teach, I'm self-taught. I like with Photoshop. I do a lot of graphic work for local stores. There's a store in Los Angeles called the Wrestling Guy Store. And my booking business, I book a lot of talent there. I booked, Kurt Angle there, and I booked Kevin Nash a couple times with Scott Hall. I booked a lot of people there. And they'll ask me, hey, can you make me a flyer? So I'll figure out Photoshop stuff, and I make flyers now and do all kinds of graphic stuff. And so now I'm like doing the same thing with video stuff and kind of teaching myself. And so like, I'm going to do it with this episode. You're going to be my first episode where I'm going to have like a whole little intro and everything.
Good, you'll make me look and sound smarter than I am.
No. So there's no amount of editing I can do with that. These are fun. I'm enjoying doing them. I know they last a little long sometimes. My whole goal is like, I'll do a half hour. We'll do 20 minutes like that. But when you get a couple of guys who are passionate about their hobby and about the industry itself, you can just talk, and especially when we just meet for the first time,
Yeah, that's the thing. We can talk about sets. We can talk about we haven't even gotten into talking about specific sets and things like that. But that's something you can do.
Oh yeah, you wait. Trust me. We do it for my Vela cards, and where we break down the raw deal stuff. We break down sets. Tomorrow morning, I have a 9 a.m. one for Vela cards. We're going to break down a set again. We've broken down multiple sets.
Well, maybe an idea might be to do like a Zoom with a bunch of us, and myself and Peck and Porto and you and whoever else, and then we talk about sets. We get into let's talk about some.
I want to make episodes where it's specifically about that. Like we could just talk about the 1998 WCW and WO Series 1 set and just talk about that set, and that's it. And that's an episode.
Yeah, it could be.
Endless possibilities.
Well, there's a lot there. It all depends on what people want to see. Like this is of interest to me because I'm into this, you too. But you'd be surprised. Like there's a lot of guys, like I say, I get 4,000 unique visitors a month. And I'm sure you would get that plus if you were up and running fully. You might even get that now still. You can't tell because you can't.
I'd have to go back and check it. But
yeah, I did post. It was just done at a time when the technology wasn't there. It's a flat site. Like what my site is built on didn't exist when you guys did WTC. And lucky for it. I wouldn't want to have to do it the way you guys did it. At least now for me, I buy a set, right? I put a checklist together in my Google Docs, and that's automatically fed to the website, and it's all set up. Bing, 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 bang. Get an image, and it's done. So really, when you say, does it take a lot of work to post a new set? No, maybe about half an hour. But the work comes into, like you said, you go back and go over some of these numbers, and we really should. And that could be a project that we do. Again, I reach out to David Peck by all means to get back in touch with me with up-to-date numbers on the All-Stars.
Yeah.
Because we know that they're winning.
I don't know. There's not much more information. There's not a whole lot more information on those All-Star sets that we really need to add to the checklist. Those checklists are complete. They're done. I mean, as far as information goes, there might be a few extra things about, different ways it was distributed possibly, and maybe more specific magazines that were in it. I mean, who knows?
Well, you guys did the images. That was great. You showed different variety of what the chase cards look like, what a relic card looked like.
That was a key. I mean, originally, if you remember back when WTC started, that wasn't the case. It was just a checklist and information. That was it. And then the idea became like, hey, let's start scanning all this stuff and actually just putting it up there then.
Well, Dave was in touch, or one of you guys were getting regular updates from Fleer or whoever it was, because you guys were the only way that I could find out what was in the set.
In the beginning, it was me with Fleer because I had the connection with Fleer. I didn't take that information, give it to David, because David was the one that was handling the day-to-day operations of it. He would handle all the imaging. He'd handle updating the checklist. I mean, what WTC is today and has been, for the last whatever many years like that, is large in part because of David's, massive amount of hours he's put into updating it. And I lost interest in it.
It's a big job. So, Dave Porto, well done, man. You've created a legacy for a lot of collections, a lot of collectors. Like my site wouldn't exist if WTC didn't exist, plain and simple.
It's nice to see, and it's always wonderful to hear when people discover WTC and figure out, I've used it for what its purpose was. It was to educate. It was just to be informative, let people know what's out there. And because, you know, again, at one point I thought I've got it all. I've got everything there is. There's nothing. When I find out there's something
No,
over
you
in
find
Peru.
out there's this, there's Al-Haf, there's silly things you've never heard of that just keep turning up.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And you guys are this way. I'd see something listed on your site. What's this? You know, CML and different federations and things.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
CMLL set. That's like to David and I, it's kind of a holy grail for us.
there's a lot of sets, and you know, in a future episode of this, we can talk about specifically the different sets over the years and which ones were harder to get and get into it. But I think collectors would enjoy that, so they know from our perspective. Okay, if you're going to buy some wrestling cards, where should you spend your money?
Exactly.
Well, buy the All-Stars if you can get them. You know, buy the WCW autographs if you can find them. That kind of stuff. Stay away from recent Topps product where there's so much.
And for you to check out. Oh, okay, cool. My wife's messaging me. It's like that. So I guess we can wrap this up here soon, I guess. But I'd love to have you on again in the future. We start doing like have a group discussion about, we can break down.
You can do,
It's a great,
talk to the experts or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think, well, I mean, I already put that out there from people. Would you be interested in having, I post on the social media pages, would you be interested in having set breakdowns? And like, yeah, it'd be awesome. Yeah. And I think that's a good year, like somewhere in the 99 or 98 set. That's a great release to talk about. Well, I do have a special guest coming on here sometime in the week that is going to help me talk. We're not going to break the set down. We're going to just talk about the involvement that he had making those sets.
That'll be fun to get an insider perspective.
That's something that I haven't seen anybody talk about really, is those WCW autograph cards, other than just collecting them and how cool they are.
Well, you asked, and I'd say that's probably my favorite of the entire universe. Is those 3 sets of autographs? They're just so cool.
They're fun
so
sets. They're fun.
Everybody signed, and you've got, like I just showed you, those All-Star cards. If you go through who signed those WCWs, it's got everybody. It's like that Royal Rumble, that Flair one. You look at that, and everybody was in that mattered. Same thing with those cards. You know?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk about. It's like that. But man, I've had a good time.
I'm more than happy to come back anytime that you want to do something with a bunch of this.
Yeah, I've had a great time talking to you, Paul. It's been wonderful, and it's finally great to meet you.
Yeah, and thanks for everything you guys have done.
No problem, man. Thank you for continuing it.
All right, man.
Hey, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Paul. Talk to you later.
Bye.